Okay, so today we have Tara Austin and Jordan Austin here from Montgomery, Texas. They drove all the way down in the hurricane round 2 this week. They drove in right in the middle of a storm to get here. So we appreciate you guys being here. We brought you guys in today because we want to hear the success of your 2 businesses up on the north side of Houston. Everybody in Houston knows who you guys are, even in this part of Houston. They know about your store that is an hour away from here. So I want you to talk about Ruthie Grace.
Okay.
And I want you to talk about Forge 86 and how those came to be. So we'll start with what you guys are today, and then we'll rewind the story to the beginning.
Okay. Can I go ahead and talk?
Yeah.
I don't know, but the duo between us, I'm kind of the talker.
Same.
I'm kind of picking up that vibe from you
Same.
guys over here.
You got to have a talker
It's
and a
hard to
listener.
get in the well, no, it's just hard sometimes. She'll just go and go and go, and I almost have to interrupt if I want to say something. Like, oh,
That's definitely me.
yeah,
That's
That's
good.
us.
You sit back and
that's
enjoy
okay.
the show.
Though.
We just
Yeah,
feel
no,
entertaining.
it's all good.
Okay, so let's start with Ruthie Grace and Forged 86. So as it is today, the LLC as it stands has been in business for 13 years. So we have 2 brick and mortar storefront locations, one for Ruthie Grace, one for Forged 86. And then we also have e-commerce stores for both locations, and they operate out of our warehouse, which is about a mile away from our storefront locations. So
So do you guys operate as one company, or are they 2 separate companies?
they're under the same umbrella. So all of our executive level team, everybody's under the same corporate umbrella. They're just 2 separate storefront locations. Our storefront management teams are separate, and the inventory separate, completely separate point of sale system, website. They're not linked or anything.
But the LLC is the same.
Yes,
I was
but
wondering how you ran your inventory if it was all in the same moment.
No, it's completely different. So two totally different Shopify locations, storefronts, all the things. They're totally separate.
What are the size of the spaces?
Of the storefront locations? So Ruthie
Grace
Grace.
is 2,000,
Okay.
and then Forge is like 1,750.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a pretty big men's store, too.
Yeah, it is. It's a pretty big men's store.
So what type of clothing do you guys sell for the men's?
Ooh,
How would you describe the style?
it's kind of a mixture. I think when we opened it, we were looking for we're not a Western store. I grew up out in the country. I didn't grow up in the city. My dad is our ag teacher, so my background is agriculture. But when we got into the business, we wanted to be able to provide a little bit of everything.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a little bit of Western flair. You've got a few items in there that can appeal to that customer, and then you have something that someone can come off the street and just buy a T-shirt and a pair of shorts. It's like everyday wear, I guess you could call it.
What kind of brands do you guys sell? Is it all your own brand, or is it other brands?
So the thing about the men's store is it's actually what you call a third-party retailer. So we actually carry a lot of existing brands in the store. So we're kind of like the third step that a consumer would come to us to be able to buy those brands. So a lot of the main brands that we carry are Free Fly, Howler. We carry Burlebo, which is one of our top sellers. Marshwear, Two Dove. So
Texas Standard, a lot of Texas companies too.
yeah, we
I
do
like
have
that.
a lot of Texas representation. A lot of the products really focus on kind of like built for the weekend, if I was to say something. So it's not your man that's going down to the office and needs a pair of slacks and a button-down shirt. So we're really tailored to the man who has a lot of flexibility in where he works, how he works, and what he does for work. And so he's looking for performance type materials. He needs things that, he's just looking for a great fitting shirt that he can rely on. It's trustworthy, easy to go to. And he's probably going to buy it in every print and every color that he has possible.
That sounds like Sean with, what's the brand you always go to?
There's a couple of different
No,
ones,
what's the
but-
one that in the Heights that you go to? I want to say Fatherty or however you say that, but
Faherty.
it's not.
Oh,
Faherty.
Faherty,
So is
yeah.
it kind of that's what I feel like your style is, from what I've seen. Because our friend Chris Tarver modeled
Yeah,
for you guys
yeah.
one time.
Yeah.
Like, Chris, what is Chris doing? Did he get a Ford agency, modeling agency contract or what? Because I saw him posting about it, and that's how I found out about you. Because I had already known about you, but I had seen
Yeah.
your men's stuff. That's kind of what it seemed like to me. A lot of vests,
Yeah.
a padded vest kind of situation. Maybe that was your
That was a
winter
friend
collection.
deal model because male models are very expensive.
They are.
They are. They're
'Cause
more
the-
expensive than the girl models are.
It's crazy because there's not a lot of them.
But why don't you just? I mean, I know your situation now, and I'm gonna get to that too. But as far as you, why don't you model all your own stuff?
I do.
He does.
I mean, that's what you should do.
I'm
I'm the
cheap.
model for my makeup line. I'm free.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
Why
that's
not?
what he says. I'm
That's
the
what
free
we
model.
do now. Yeah, I am the guy.
So you're the face of the company, and I know that you have. Is it Lindsay Hedrick? Is that how
Yeah,
you say
you
her
got
name?
her name. Yeah.
Everybody knows her in town. She is Miss Popular,
in
probably more
town.
popular than you are now, because
Let me
everybody
just tell
knows
you,
who she
not
is.
even in town, across the country and the airport. I mean, everywhere. People know who Lindsay is.
And her husband was a pro Olympian too.
He was
Pretty
a gold
impressive.
Olympic medalist. Yeah.
Yep.
And speed skating.
So she was already popular through him through that. Now she's got her own popularity, probably way more popular than he ever was.
I can tell you some stories
Her
about
own
that,
right.
where that is true.
It's so funny whenever Sean first started getting on, when I started getting on social media more in my stories, we had just had Liam, and he would go to Target, and everybody would be like, oh, "Are you Gentry Kelly's husband?
Yes.
Is that Liam?" But he was always known as Gentry Kelly's husband.
No, that's me.
Goes to the car wash.
I'm Mr. Ruthie Grace or
This sounds
Tara's
so
husband. That's it. That's
It sounds
That's
so-
why I'm known in Montgomery. So it's just
Because I grew up there. So like my business is built in the area that like I grew up. Like it is still my hometown community, which is why I love where we're at, is because there's just still so many connections.
So
to-
population what when you were growing up? How big was Montgomery back then?
it doesn't actually meet the town, but the city limits actually was 400 when I was there. But it's because we have so much rural land outside. So like our school district, it was a 4A. I had 260 students in my graduating high school class. Like it wasn't extremely small. Where he grew up, way South Texas.
Where at? Where'd you grow up?
a town called Raymondville, down in the valley, north of Brownsville, 45 minutes.
I tell people you throw a rock and you hit Mexico and all the signs are in Spanish.
You have a stoplight there.
Oh yeah, we had a Whataburger. I mean, we had
Oh,
a
that's a
Dairy
big deal.
Queen,
That is big.
McDonald's,
That
you
is
know.
big time.
We had a 9-hour Walmart.
We just recently went to Campwood, and I'm like, that is what you call a small town. It's like north of Uvalde. There's like not even a stoplight, I don't believe, and there's one Mexican food restaurant there and nothing else. So everyone goes to
Yeah,
this one
a
place
Mexican
to eat
food
because
restaurant.
it's the only option you have, or you're making it yourself.
It's like the restaurant and the community center all in one.
So how did you guys meet then?
We actually met in college at Texas A&M. We both went to school there.
So I heard the agricultural thing. So what were you guys going to college for?
Nothing that I'm using now.
Like most people.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I went into A&M wanting to go the ag route. Ended up graduating with agriculture development and went to go work I was a salesman for Purina Feed, the corporate side of it. And then I got into the water industry whenever we moved over into Montgomery because we were living in College Station. When we got married, she still had like 6 months of school left.
Yeah.
We stayed in College Station and I was driving back and forth to Austin. Hated it. And so she wanted to come to Montgomery. We always wanted to come to Montgomery. So we ended up coming to Montgomery. I ended up working for it's a river authority there in the Montgomery County area. And it was in the water industry. So then I decided to go back, get my master's in water management. I did. Then we had a kid.
Yeah.
Then about 5 years later, I decided there's no path for me that's going to happen anytime soon, at least in the next 5 or 10 years here. So I need to try something different. So then I went into the commercial construction industry and did that for a couple of years. And then finally, we decided it was time for me to come join her.
So how long were you with the water authority? I'm assuming that's who you were.
About 10 years.
Oh, so a pretty long amount of time.
Yeah.
And then what did you leave to do in construction?
It was general contracting, commercial development stuff.
And quickly you decided this is not for me either?
No, I enjoyed it. But it just got to the point where Tara just needed my help.
Well, there's a lot more to our story.
There's a lot more to it. I know I kind
You
of
just-
fast
we
tracked.
listen. We like all the details.
You
Fast
literally
track.
just went from how did y'all meet to just
Don't skip over all the juicy stuff now.
yeah.
Well, I was talking about degrees, I guess, and it just took me in a different
A whole
direction.
different route.
So back to when we met.
We met at Texas A&M. We met through a mutual friend. You were in ag economics and development, and then I was actually I went to Texas A&M to study. I wanted to go to medical school. I actually wanted to be a dermatologist. That was kind of my out of high school. This is what I'm going to do with my life. And I got into my second year of college, and I would like to call myself somebody who's smart. I studied a lot. I went to all these kinds of tutoring, and there were just classes I just could not, I couldn't get past a B. And I just knew man, if I can't ace these classes and I've got 8 years of school ahead of me, I just don't think this is right. And
Was it biology?
no, it was organic chemistry and
Oh, I
things
couldn't
like
do that
yeah.
class. I had to take biology 3 times.
Oh,
I kept
yeah.
dropping, and I was like, I couldn't get over an F. And then finally, by the last time I took it, I was like, it has to be the teacher. I tried to do
Yeah.
campus, and it was equally as bad. And I'm like, okay, I actually have to study for this class, and I'd never been a
You never had-
studious kid.
yeah.
I never had to study. I was always a B student,
Yeah.
but I never studied my whole life. And I'm like, okay, now I got to actually read a book. My ADHD has to sit down and learn something and comprehend it. By the 3rd time, it was my favorite class I had taken.
I'm a nerd at heart. I am reading probably 8 books at a time, constantly reading. I love it. I would tell people if I could be a forever student, I would be. I would have never graduated college and just kept going. I could have gotten a PhD.
You asked for books for Christmas.
Yes.
Yeah,
My
I
kids
can't
make
remember
fun of
that.
me. They're like, who would buy books for Christmas? Me, your mom. But
I probably read 10 books my entire life, front
I like
cover to back
books,
cover.
but I hate
can't.
school. I just got so bored. It wasn't for me.
Isn't it
But I still
challenging
like reading right now.
yeah.
But stuff that I want to read. And
Right.
not
You get
just
to have the
some
choice over it.
non-interesting classes. Yeah, they're not going to help me do anything.
But I'm surprised at the amount of energy that I've already seen since I've met you here in person today, that you're able to sit down and read a book without having 10 business ideas. and keep your concentration. I just can't. I just literally can't. I feel like I'm wasting my time. I could be working on my business.
I do read fiction, but I'm generally reading business books.
Oh, okay.
So
So
that's
anything to
kinda-
help you with your.
Yeah.
They're not even entertaining.
Yes.
That's him
So-
too. He's the same thing.
So
Everybody's-
I was biomedical science, switched to animal science because I was like, okay, I got to figure out how to like transfer my degree. I can't stay on the same path. And so I honestly didn't really know what I was going to do. I switched degree programs just to have something that felt a little bit easier. And at that point, he and I we were pretty serious and dating, and we knew that we were going to get married. And so I just need something to finish out. And then 2009 rolls around when I'm graduating. We've been married 6 months. We were in a recession, and it was like, okay, I really wanted to stay on and get my master's probably in animal reproduction. But I decided that we couldn't do that. We couldn't afford to do that. So I had to get out and get a job. And I was working as a customer service agent at a State Farm location in Montgomery because that was the only place I had connections and the only place I could find a job. And so we ended up relocating to Montgomery.
And this is when he's still working in Austin, so you're making that hour and a half commute.
Yeah, we're going opposite directions.
Oh, God.
Yes. And so finally we're like, you know what? We're just going to relocate back to Montgomery. I'm working there. He gets the job at the River Authority. And so we're like, okay, this is what we're doing. Well, his job, we were fortunate enough that his job actually was going to provide on-house living arrangements for us. And so when we knew that we weren't going to have to be providing our own like bills and mortgage and all those things, and I was just really miserable working as a customer. Nobody is excited to call an insurance agent.
That's probably the worst industry to be in. That's like worse than being on Amazon customer service.
Yeah, I mean, nobody's excited to talk to you, and I'm a joyful, happy person. So I had always loved fashion my whole life. I loved shopping. My grandmother, it was a very much a part of like tradition in my family. Shopping was an experience that we did together as a family, and I'm the oldest of 3 girls. So, it's just something I grew up doing. I had every single month's worth of InStyle magazine growing up. I had collections, and I'd always loved it. And at the time, the idea of a lower price point, faster fashion concept model was coming out with boutiques. And you saw boutiques taking a transition from being for an older clientele with real premium high-end brands and prices to really being like, hey, let's be more affordable for like the middle class person. Let's bring in inventory and turn a little bit. And so there was a boutique that opened in College Station. And I was working, in insurance, and I kind of became friends with these girls, and they were my age. I mean, they were 20, 22, and 23. And I was watching their business model and watching their foot traffic and watching their sales, and I was like, I can totally do this. And so I basically asked to meet with them. We chatted one day over lunch, and I came to Jordan and I was like, hey, so I really want to open a women's clothing boutique. I want to do this. And I can't remember the exact conversation, but like there was zero opposition coming from him. He was like, okay.
That's easy.
So I was like, all right, let's do this.
Did you have any sort of like business plan at this point? Like this is what's going to cost us?
Not
And you
yet.
still
No,
was
none,
like, okay.
nope. I just said, I'm gonna
So you
do
shit his
this.
pants later. Got it.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't have kids, just the 2 of us.
Yeah,
And
that's the best way.
And what year was this? You said it was 2009 when you graduated, right?
Yeah, so this was 2010. And
Okay, so you've been working for the insurance company a year plus.
8 months.
8 months, so not even a year. Okay.
Yeah, and I was 22 years old. Like, I'm gonna do this. And he's like, okay. So then I'm like, we got to do some research. We got to figure this out. And so we start putting together business plans and talking to people who, like at this point I'm 22. I don't know anybody who does this. So I'm
Was
obviously
there
like,
anybody in Montgomery that did it at all? Y'all
No,
had nothing.
none,
So
none.
if they wanted nice clothes, they had to go to the Woodlands.
they had to go to the Woodlands. And I knew this. And so
And
I was like,
how far away are you from the Woodlands? 20, 30 minutes?
30 minutes. Yeah.
Still quite a commute
Yeah.
to go pick up something for the weekend.
Very much so. And I mean, like, we didn't even have, at this point in the development of like the area, like, I think there was a Target maybe in Conroe, but there's some other developments closer now where you've got like TJ Maxx, Old Navy. None of that was there. So like you had to go to the Woodlands. You couldn't bypass and go to Conroe at all at that point.
And online shopping just wasn't that big yet. People were too scared. Like, is this going to fit? I don't know my
Yeah,
size.
e-commerce, the boom of e-commerce hadn't even happened. And honestly, the boom of social media hadn't really even happened. At that point okay, so before I get ahead of myself, let me go ahead and say, so I built out the business plan, and I was like, okay, got to go to the bank, right? We got to get a loan because we literally zero money, okay? We didn't go on a honeymoon, nothing. Like, we were just.
So you're like, I have $5. Can I have 100?
Yeah.
Thank you. 100,000.
So I had to ask my parents, like, okay, can you vouch for me? Can you like put up your cattle as
Done.
leverage?
People outside of Texas are peeing their pants right
yeah,
now.
if I can't like pay back this bank note. And so So we go to the bank, and I'm like sitting down talking to the banker, and it was my best friend's dad was the president of the bank, so I make an appointment, and I'm like terrified.
Well,
Like
at least you have like a connection. I mean, it'd be even harder if you didn't know who he was.
Small
yes,
town.
small town, right? So I'll say it over and over again. Like community just brings so much value to like businesses, and so we go and we talk to him, and I'm like trying to give him my business plan. Okay, I've got this folder, this presentation. He's not even opening it. He's not even looking.
What
at
a waste of time.
And I'm like sitting here talking, and he's like, at first he says, I think you need to go back and do more research. I don't know if I wasn't speaking very clearly. I don't know if I wasn't convincing, but he didn't even open my binder. And I'm like, well, can I show you? Like, I wanted to show him. So I open it up, and he briefly starts looking through my
just to be
my
respectful.
slides. Yeah. And he shuts it, and he looks at me, and he's like, well, Tara, I have to ask you a question. I'm like, okay. And he's like, so what's going to make you different than Walmart? And I was like, Walmart? I'm sitting here thinking, oh my gosh, I cannot believe that this man, he has no idea about fashion. I can't.
So how much are you asking for? I have to ask.
Like, I really wanted a line of credit for $50,000. That's it.
And he's like,
That's a car.
He's asking how you're
Maybe
gonna
not a car at
compete
that
with
point.
Walmart at this point. Wow.
Yeah. And so what's actually funny is like I'll go back to growing up in a small town.
I think it was 30.
We got 35.
You ended up getting 35
Ended up getting 35.
So
And
how
so
did-
what I pitched to him is I was
from
like,
the same
look,
banker.
yes.
Okay.
in that same conversation. You say 50,000 and he laughs at you and says, go do more research. How did you end up walking out with 30?
Well, basically what I told him, I was like, well, let me tell you the difference between me and Walmart.
Everything.
Like, first of all, my entire business model is going to be built off of customer service. Everything about it. I'm going to know the people that walk in the door. I'm going to buy for the people. I'm going to shop with them. I'm going to nurture them. I'm going to build client relationships. And not only that, my age and my youth will prove valuable because I'm going to be at the front of bringing in fashions and trends. And Walmart is not going to supply the needs and demands of the women who live in our community. They are fashion savvy. They're ahead of trends. They know what they want. They're not buying from Walmart. And their money, their tax dollars are being lost to outside cities. So if you allow me to come in here and open up this business, I'm going to be bringing money back into our community. And I'll be employing people who live in this community. There's a lot of value and purpose here.
How many employees do you have today?
Are we at 37?
No, we're at 30.
Okay, we're at 30. It's a lot.
So you talk to that guy anymore?
His daughter's still one of my very best friends.
So you're like,
But
yes,
I
I
don't-
got 30 plus now. Remember what I said?
But there
that day?
are times where I want to be like, do you know where I'm at in my sales? Do you know how many employees I have? The mayor of Montgomery saw us one time. She's like, I just want to let you know you're one of the top 5 sales tax producers for the city.
Wow.
Kroger's number 1, but Ruthie Grace is number 5.
Because y'all don't got an HEB out there. and there's
Yeah,
some
not
strict
yet. She's coming.
competition.
But anyways, and so we ended up opening. I actually found I was going to go into the strip center in town, but we tried to negotiate, and I had no business credit, no history, no nothing, and nobody was willing to work with us. And then one day I was leaving work, and there was this older home. It's actually 900 square feet, and it was originally in the Heights here in Houston, and they relocated it to
wow.
the historical district in Montgomery because we actually have a historical district in town, and there was a for lease sign on it. So I pulled in, grabbed the number, called the lady, and she had 4 different people interested in the building, and I beat everybody out. And literally it was because I'm from here. I know these people. I'm going to bring in a business. She could sense my energy, my enthusiasm, my passion. And she was like, I know you're 22, but I'm going to give you this opportunity. And that's where it started. So at 30,
How did you even know what you were looking for? I can't even imagine how scary that would be. Like knowing that you want to open a store, but not even know if you're making the right decision on your real estate. How did you know? Was there a certain part of town? Was it like your market square of Montgomery? Like, how did you know where you wanted to be?
I will tell you this, from the very beginning, I have always understood the power of marketing influence. And so I've always understood if you have a good brand and you have a good product and you know how to get it in front of people, people will come. So I do believe location has a lot of power because it does create convenience and ease. And that's why we are in the retail center that we're in at this time. But ultimately, you can be in the middle of nowhere, but if you create something desirable enough, people will come. And you can look at like what Joanna and Chip Gaines have done with Waco. I mean, Waco was a dying economy. They really were struggling. You know, they had the university in a lot of ways, but what they have done for the economy of Waco, Texas is unbelievable. And that's because they've built a brand that people desire to experience. And I think I just always knew that. And so I've taken that in, and that's been like the forefront of our minds anytime we've developed anything, especially, you know, we just opened Forged in 2022. And we really put the brand experience at the forefront of the idea of the company. And at that time, just being, like I tell everybody, my claim to fame is I'm the graduating high school class of 2005. And so I actually was one of the first Facebook generations that was outside of a D1 school, because I went to A&M, that was allowed to join the Facebook platform. So like I'm one of the longest Facebook users that there is. Like I'm in a unique
So it's
group.
2005, the year it came out?
Well, 2004 is when Mark Zuckerberg released it, but once they released it to other D1 schools, you had to have an @tmu.edu
Oh, that's right.
email address.
Yeah, college, right?
And you had to be invited by an existing user. So
Oh, I don't remember the invites.
Yeah.
We were still on MySpace back then. So I don't know.
One of my friends went to Texas State, and so whenever I was up there, he was like, "You need to check out this Facebook thing. It's
There's
a
girls on there.
Yeah, it's a college thing. It's like there's a ton of girls on here.
Yeah.
But it was only colleges. It was back then.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, like, how did you have so much confidence in marketing? Because it was before Instagram. This is when, I mean, I was pretty active on Facebook around
Yeah.
that time. So I used to be relying on Facebook. They didn't have a business page back then. So you
No.
had your
So
personal page with 5,000 max followers.
Well, I
And you
created
were-
a personal page for the business. Like you weren't forced to be a business page at that point. And I went through that transition. And my friends who owned this boutique in College Station, I was watching them. They'd get new arrivals in, they'd post a picture, people were in their door within 10 minutes. So I just modeled what I saw. And I saw it
Were you the
working.
model at first?
Yeah. On and off, yes.
Like, boom, easy, take a picture in a mirror.
But honestly, it
sell
wasn't
out.
even that. It was like I was just dressing my mannequin forms.
So I want to back up the story too. So you had the idea, you had the concept, you knew it was going to be successful because it's your hometown. You're like, I know everybody, all 5 people that live here.
Yeah.
We know them all. Montgomery's pretty spread out and pretty big too.
Yes.
Location doesn't matter. I know how to market myself. Now, step 2. The whole premise of the podcast is to find out like how you did it. How did you even know? I mean, I know you had the 2 girls that you were talking to in College Station, but how did you know about market, where to go, what people wanted? Was it only things that you thought you would wear at first? If you wouldn't wear it, you wouldn't sell it? Or were you asking people? Like, how did you know what to get?
I would say that it's a gift that I have, that I just have always really been able to successfully buy clothing, and I just have my gut buying is really good. I don't know. I'm obviously doing a lot of research. I'm always doing like any kind of like post-buying strategy. I'm looking at like what's selling, what's not selling. I'm just constantly like, I love data. I love numbers. It's just really interesting for me to watch consumer behavior and see what translates. Like, what do people actually want to buy?
Is this stuff that really surprises you? They're like, no one is going to buy this and it sells out first.
Oh, 100%.
What was your biggest learning curve in the very beginning when did you buy a lot of one product and then it didn't move?
No, so I've always gone really shallow in the depth. I've always worked off a volume of style. So that's what I figured out really early on. If I can keep new coming in and propel that beast, then I'm going to be bringing people back. And so people just kind of, wanted to come back, because we always had new coming in. So instead of launching products seasonally, we were bringing
Which is like what
in
a lot of designers do is they have one thing for the season and that's
Right.
it's 4
They're doing-
cycles and that's it.
Right. And they're doing spring, summer, fall, winter,
Well,
which
back to her gut feeling though too on like buying stuff. Like we have systems in place now that help make those decisions, but literally she would just make the decision on her own. It got to the point where we tried a couple different programs to help inventory management, inventory buying, and it got to the point where they weren't working, and we just went back to her decision making.
Yeah, the organic way.
yeah.
So what do you mean? Is there software that tells you like how many sizes of each to buy, or what
So,
your
right-
demographic is? or
Yeah, so
history?
we actually have a really amazing inventory planning software that we work with now that actually it breaks down the total inventory volume, and then it breaks it down by class. So dresses, rompers, jumpsuits, tops, short sleeve, long sleeve, sleeveless. We have sets, we have intimates, we have gift, like everything's broken down. And so basically what it does is it gives us a 12-month rolling forecast of our anticipated sales.
of each category.
Yes.
So not per style, not per SKU, just per category.
per category.
So what is your best selling category right now?
We've always done really well with dresses.
I was supposed to say dresses. I would imagine would be your number 1.
Yes.
Over shirts.
And then going back to when you started, so the 30,000, 35,000,
Yep.
you signed the lease.
Yep.
And then how much you used of the 35,000 to buy inventory when you first started?
All of it.
Okay. So you
they
started,
didn't
so
give
you're
you
back to
terms?
0.
They didn't give you terms at all these places? Like I'm assuming like the Dallas market that everybody goes and they start, right?
Okay,
Are they
so
getting
shocker,
terms?
there is no such thing as terms in women's clothing.
Had no idea.
Yeah.
Everything is cash on delivery. Like you pay for it before it ships.
Yeah, so you better have a good credit
Wow.
line or a good credit card. I could talk about this topic for hours because what's fascinating about it is men's clothing has it. Women's clothing does not.
Really?
That is very odd.
A lot of
That is
brands
odd.
do for men's, yeah. But the ones that have been around a long time. The ones that are fairly new, like the last 10
I
years.
wonder if it's because most men are in department stores and department stores only do terms, so it's more of just like the way they do business.
I
Because
would
there's not
say-
as many male boutiques.
I would agree. And also, too, because their seasonality, because they're doing like, this is just fall, winter. And so they know that you need to buy at the beginning of the season and you're going to have to sit on it. So, I mean, some of their brands, they've got 90-day terms. My cash conversion cycle is my greatest obstacle that I have to face in my business because I have to turn the product so quickly in order to be able to get the cash flow back out of the product sale in order to reinvest into the new inventory. And because we're launching 450 new products a month. So my turn is extremely fast. And so we've gotten it shortened down. We're about a 4-week cash conversion cycle. So from the time that I purchase the product, then it has to get packaged in their warehouse, shipped to me. It has to get unboxed, received, and then we have to go into an unallocation process, which is where we prep all the products for launches and allocate to certain launches. Then we have to shoot, and then we have...
nobody can get sick or have diarrhea ever, because if one day gets disrupted, your whole fucking cycle falls apart.
All of it. Now let's throw in Hurricane Beryl and see what she does.
Yeah.
She, right?
Right. Yeah, it's boy, girl.
What'd you end up doing the first month after?
Sean's like, let's go back to the beginning, please.
Yeah, so no. So 35,000,
we
you
like to
spend
know all
all
the
your money.
details.
Yeah,
Like-
you spend all your money on inventory.
Because $35,000 is exactly what I
Yeah.
spent to start my business, by the way. At
Yeah.
American Express.
And then when
got a
people are at home
$35,000
listening-
limit, and that's what I charge the whole damn thing on.
Yeah.
Shitting
People
my
at home
pants.
listening, they'll want to know. People want to understand what it really takes when you start. And then what was your first month of sales after you spent all your credit that the bank gave you?
Okay, so I need to go back and look, but I can tell you this.
Approximately.
My first day that I was open, $15,000.
That is really good.
Sounds like exactly my story. Almost 10,000.
I called the
literally the
landlord.
same
That is
story.
really good.
I think I was like 3 margaritas deep, and I called the landlord, and I was like, I just made $15,000. And I'm like, yes.
So was it all from social media?
Yeah, it was, and community. I mean, people just knew about it. We promoted it on social media.
And so you threw an event
Yeah.
and then had it.
I mean, at that time, I had no idea the value of an email list, so I didn't even have that. I just literally had social media and my friends.
When people's emails were public on Facebook. Do you remember you have their name, their phone number, and their email address?
That's hilarious. I don't remember
And
all
when
that.
it was valuable
I know,
too.
'cause I would
people
copy and
actually
paste
opened
it.
it.
I basically just promoted it, and we made a big deal out of it, and I sold out of almost everything. So I was so excited about having $15,000, but come Monday when I had to open, I was like, oh shoot.
Well, how did you pay for like your hardware and your hangers and all that stuff?
Well, we did use some of the money from
I
the
did
third.
all the build out.
We did it all by hand.
So you were able to like just go to the lumber store and just buy some of the basics. So
Build
your
shelves,
cost was
build
like less than
racks.
probably $5,000 to
and
get
and
everything
I
set
have to
up.
go back and tell you what we actually. But I mean, the
But
beauty
it
of
wasn't
it
like
was
a contractor you had to hire because
no.
Luckily, you took that job in contracting, so you knew some shit about that.
Yeah,
this
well-
is prior. This is way before all that.
Well, and also too,
Oh, okay,
like
so you're
Jordan
showing-
said, his dad was the ag teacher. So like one thing that I was super attracted about when we first met was like he literally could do anything and everything you want him to do. Like he can build it. Like there's nothing he can't do, can't build. And so like we just, we had some friends, ordered some pizza, and brought in some beer, and we were like, here's a paint can and let's see what we can do. And so all the money was pretty much spent on inventory. And like I said, I just went in with like my gut feeling. I mean, I didn't know how much I needed. I didn't know how.
How about sizing? What I've heard is like you get like one extra small, one large, and then like 2 mediums and 2
It
smalls.
depends on
Is
the-
that kind of how the packages were? Or
No,
how did you know
it's
how to buy?
2 small, 2 medium, 2 large, and that's pretty much the extent of your ability. And so you have to buy things by the pack.
So you didn't really know what your market was going to wear. I mean, in the very beginning, this is a lot
No.
of money to be spent to not know what sizes are going to sell.
Correct. I had no
It's a
idea.
big risk.
It's a big risk. I have pictures of me like opening up my very first box that I've ever opened, and it was like tank tops. It wasn't even anything fun, but it was just the thing that showed up first. And so it was super successful. So I think we did to answer your question, about $40,000 my first month in the business.
And we're talking about by the way, a 900 square foot building.
Yeah. No.
So this is the house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
It's a house.
it was
So-
it was about as big as this room.
So you have shipments at that point. Just so you open up. Is your store full the first day,
Yes.
or is there some empty shelves?
No, we filled it all the way up.
How are you able to get stuff to continue to roll in? I mean, for the next day 2, 3, 4, you're like, sorry, we're sold out. Everything's such a great launch. Thanks for coming. You want to
Yes.
pre-sell?
Yes.
Were you reordering the
No,
same stuff
I was
again?
trying,
I mean, what were you
but
doing?
here's the thing. So we've got this cash conversion cycle, right? So like deposits take 2 to 3 business days to settle. So here I am, like sitting here with like pretty much no inventory. I got people walking in, and their first impression of my business is,
She got shit in here.
yeah, there's nothing. What is she selling? And so then it's coming in. But then I'm naive, right? I'm 22 years old, and I don't have a credit card for the business. No one said, hey, Tara, you should open up a credit card for the business.
I was literally thinking this whole time, like,
I just have this line of credit, but now I've maxed it out. So I'm thinking, okay, here's my checking account. Well, when you have a debit card, you can only charge $500 a day on a debit card unless you increase your spending limit. So every day I'd have to call the bank. Hey, can you increase my spread? You know, and
you're getting declines with the manufacturer.
Yeah. And so we're trying to send out inventory. And so, I didn't realize how quickly, and I operated off of a debit card system for probably, I'm even embarrassed to admit how long until I was like, oh, I actually think that if I had a credit card and then I paid the credit, like, okay, that's how you leverage.
Sean didn't have a credit card when I met him. Maybe for your business. Did you have one for your business? It was in you and your partner's name. But I remember you had your first personal credit card.
Yeah, we had business credit cards.
He would say, I'm going to cut a check. And I'm like, you pay your vendors in check? He's like, yeah, it's called COD, check on delivery.
I did that.
Yeah. I'm like, well, I call COD card on delivery, and I charge the fucking card before the stuff leaves the building. He's like, nope, we get a check. He's like, you hand it to the driver. I'm like, you hand a check to the truck driver?
Yep.
This is a long time ago.
But what I learned out really quickly, because I was always dealing with these issues of the debit
You're like,
card.
it's hot, but just by the time the check gets back to them, it should clear.
Yeah. But what I learned was that you pay extra money to do CODs. Because they basically charge you a fee to be able to take on the risk.
UPS, yeah,
I had
UPS
no
charged
idea.
it.
Like $35.
UPS charged it?
A long time ago, yeah.
So
so wait a second. So UPS was paying for your goods to take them from the...
Yeah, UPS was charging the COD
no
fee.
idea.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because they have to handle the check and get it back to the customer.
Well, I was wondering how that, yeah.
So I'm then paying $35 for every single package that I'm doing these CODs. And like one day I remember I went back and I like totaled up and I was like, oh, it's like thousands of dollars I've been spending on this.
Starbucks.
Yeah. And so I was like, okay, so I can't even remember when, and then that's when I found the American Express had actually just come out with, I think at that time, what they call the Plum Card, which is actually
I remember the Plum Card. I remember when they launched that.
made for retail.
5% or something.
And what year was that?
I couldn't tell you.
Because I think it was like 2012, 13. Because I started my business on the American Express, the clear one with the blue dot.
Yes.
Which I didn't have to pay off every month, which was great.
Yeah, so we have
Because
60-day terms with the American Express Plum Card.
So with mine, it was whenever. It was like a regular credit card, but it was American Express.
Oh, wow.
So it was the American Express brand, and I had a $35,000 limit that I should not have had at my age. My previous purchase for an ex-boyfriend, because he was starting a company, I charged it on my card, and they kept raising my limit because he would be paid off every month. So thank God I did do that, even though it put a lot of stress on me when we broke up. At least I had a card with a very high limit because of it. But I had a $900 minimum payment that I would have to pay no matter what.
Oh, wow.
But it was a revolving card that took me 2 years to pay off, just paying the little bit over the minimum and then recharging stuff on it.
Yeah.
So that's how I floated it because I didn't have any cash.
We took off. I think the business took off fairly quickly. I think our first year in business, we did like $250,000 in sales. Considering, I opened in February, and then we took a jump, $400,000, and then I really was naive enough and thought, okay, yeah, year 3, I'm gonna do $1 million. That didn't happen. I went to $600,000.
Your numbers are exactly the same as mine.
And
I had a $75,000 first year, and then I did $250,000, and then $450,000, and then $6 something.
Yes,
and
that's hilarious. Wow,
like
and then I did $1 million after that.
Us, and then like the way you're talking, I feel like
you're like, oh, I see a mirror reflection. And so from there, we just kept growing and scaling. And so we basically took the jump from just brick and mortar to like people basically could buy things on social media. Then I worked with a guy and I was like his test SCOTUS. He developed like a platform that basically allowed people to buy through social media.
So tell me how that works, because I never did understand that. I never followed people's lives. So you're talking about you would do a live, a try-on session, and they could purchase from the live?
Same concept, but we didn't do the live. That's a company called Comment Sold. It's really popular in the women's clothing industry. I've never done
it, so I don't know how it works.
Right.
I'm super curious.
So pretty much this was something different with a different guy, but it's general same concept. They would have to comment #RunShip, and then that would pull in an automation. It was like a secondary platform that would charge their card, and you could attach the product to the comment, and it would charge their card for the product.
So it wasn't giving them a link to the website,
no.
Not like ManyChat does now. When I
Correct.
say comment dress, and then I send them a link. So this would be their credit card had to be on file on Facebook.
Yep.
And whenever they would say,
well, it was through the RunShip program platform. So they have to like create an account.
Okay, got it.
And then once their account was created, it authorized RunShip the ability to, when they said RunShip size small on the picture, basically it gave me the ability to like authorize the card. I could package it up and I'd print off the shipping label. So it was like my step before e-commerce, right?
What year you think that was?
So that was like 2012 to 2014.
So you're 2-3 years in business.
Yeah.
Before you had an e-com.
Yep. And then we basically get to where we're 4 years in this 900 square foot building. We decide, okay, well, we're kind of outgrowing this. And so crazy enough, the building that my landlord's business was in was next door. And it was what was called the old schoolhouse. And so it was actually the old schoolhouse out for the community way out in Dobbin in like the late 1800s. And they'd relocated it to the historical district. It had like the original like chalkboard and the library and everything. And so it was like deemed a historical building. And she decided she wanted to own the building. She didn't want to have a retail business anymore. It was like a gift shop. And so she approached me and she's like, hey, do you want to take over my building? And so I said yes, went from 900 square feet to 3,200 square feet.
Oh, wow.
And what was really cool about that building was it kind of, the way the building was set up, it was like an L. So we actually had a whole area to start building back stock for our inventory to where we could actually house back stock.
Because everything before was like on the floor. There was no room.
There was literally no
break
room.
room.
Like at that time, I had my manager in the 900 square foot building, and she would joke that like the bathroom was right where her office was. So when people were using the restroom, she would just try to type really hard so she couldn't hear people using the restroom. And there was like it was an old building, so there were like gaps in the door frames and things like that.
Yeah, and it hadn't been inspected in forever. So I had to bring things up to code, and that was fun,
Making it ADA compliant when it was
Yeah.
a building that moved from the Heights. That was probably fun.
Oh, man. So we moved to 3,200 square feet. And when we had that ability to really grow our inventory, we were like, okay, I think this is time for us to step in e-commerce. And I also really started picking up on with Facebook launching the ability to pay for ads. And so they were so cheap, but you had to have a place to send them, or you had to have a landing page. You couldn't build an ad to send someone really at that point to your actual page. It was the idea was that you could send money to an external website. And so because I didn't have a website, I didn't have something to send people to.
So what was the hesitation on getting the website? Because your stuff was just moving too fast, and you were like, I can't make this work with the in-store and online. It's
To be honest, I think it was just being just so naive and just
the time spent, or
I just think it was an unknown for me. I just think that I was just so immersed in trying to keep up with social media and learning how to run a business. That is my greatest regret. I've told people this. I teach retailers. My biggest regret is not going into e-commerce a little bit earlier and capitalizing on how cheap ad spend was at that point in time.
you did with TF supplements.
Because if I would have done it, the ability for me to scale, I can't even, my business would look completely different. And it's like a regret that I have that I didn't do it because I missed an opportunity that I waited way too long.
Mine was pre-social media, but it was the same thing with Google Ads when you could probably get an ad for
Pennies.
10 cents to
Yeah.
12 cents and then it converts with like a 70% conversion rate because there's just no
92 cents.
There's nobody
Yeah,
in the
because
market. There's
there was,
nobody.
yeah,
in the
it was just not a lot of
pot.
ads at the time, and then there wasn't a lot of competition, so your ad spend super low, and so the conversion was crazy high, which would never happen again. Anytime there starts getting a bunch of demand, ad prices go way up.
Yep.
And then same thing with social
Just
media
gets
now.
diluted.
Yeah, it's really tough. But if you're early on the new thing, then
Yeah, I'm super surprised you didn't do the online. That was what I did first because I just wasn't in a retail store. I was like, cosmetic brands like Sephora's not going to say yes to me. A department
Right.
store's not going to say yes to me.
Right.
early social converted really good.
Really
from some other guys I know that were doing it. But that was like a little bit after my time. We were mine was Google and Yahoo.
Yeah.
We all have
Google
regrets. Like I
shopping.
wish I would have been a little bit more active on social media prior to COVID. So
Yeah.
that way that could have been the gasoline on the fire. And I feel like you were. I mean, you started getting online,
Yeah.
you said what, 2014, 15?
15.
So you had already had 4 years of that when 2019 happened.
Right.
And that's when I first heard of you. I feel like it was right before COVID,
Okay.
around that time.
Yeah.
And then that's when I saw the gasoline. So what did that do that time when everyone's stuck at home shopping? Everybody has these checks and
Oh
now
my
they're
gosh.
spending money.
It
What
was-
happened to your sales then? What happened in 2019 to 2020? What was the difference in your sales growth
Oh, double.
and your
Double.
followers too?
At first, though, it started taking a dip, and we
We were a little nervous.
didn't know what we were going to do.
Dip when? At the beginning of COVID?
Right,
Beginning
when
of the year,
everything
when-
kinda, like,
when
shut
COVID
down.
hit,
March.
and everybody basically was just holding off on spending money everywhere.
Really? That's was my 2 best months.
Our
And
sales
then
dipped.
once everything opened back up, everything went,
Oh, so March slowed down a lot because we were filming Beach Vacation in Galveston when the first COVID case popped up in Montgomery County. And I remember we were all there. We were like, okay, this is actually going to be a thing. And it was like we had all these vacation looks. And so people were, they
Nobody's
were
going on
canceling
vacation.
their vacations left and
That
right.
gives me the chills. So you
Yeah.
spent all this money on
So-
your whole line and then
Yeah.
just put nothing,
Yes.
nothing sold.
And so for the first 2 weeks, it was like nothing. But then after that, it was just like, I remember just being like mind blown. I just remember having a lot of cash at one point, and we were driving around. I remember like the beginning of April, a lot of things were still really closed, and we were like, oh my gosh. So let me go back. We started e-commerce in 2015, and that's when we really started investing in ad spend. And what got me from 600,000 into million plus was when I actually stepped into spending money on ads. And I started propelling the business forward with spending money on ads, and we were getting really great returns really early on.
What was your monthly budget for that?
I remember thinking that I was spending $6,000 a month in the beginning, and that included paying the agency. I think
and this is when you're doing $600,000 a year.
Yeah.
So this is a good 15% of your total revenue for the business.
Yeah. So I mean,
you're spending on ads. That's a good chunk.
That's a big jump if you're not spending those marketing dollars, right? But I remember the return was very fast. Like it was quick. We started seeing a huge jump in sales pretty fast.
Was it only on Instagram at the time? Where were you advertising? Facebook and Instagram?
Yes, both. I'm trying to remember if Facebook had already bought Instagram at that point. I honestly can't remember where that time
I don't
was.
remember either. And so you're targeting certain audiences, your women audience, or
and at that time you wanted to have control over your audience. You could build lookalike audiences. You could go after audience of existing Facebook pages. But I remember just really, I was so surprised. I was so scared. And at this time in my business, even still, I was very much, I would say, alone in my business. Like in the sense of, like, I didn't know anyone who was doing what I was doing. I was just taking shots from the hip, praying a lot and making educated guesses, but I really didn't know what I was doing. I was just trying to figure it out as I went. And I was trying to make the best educated decisions I could. I was trying to hire the best people. I was trying to do the trends and follow things. And, and so like I didn't have any guidelines, any standard operating procedures, anything. I was just like, we were just in constant survival mode. And I'm like, let me try this. And I'm kind of risk averse. So like, I'm not totally afraid to take steps, because I'm like, I feel confident in my ability to recover from what I need to. But not getting in early on with those ads, and not having that e-commerce platform, that's like one of my greatest regrets, because I could have built a bigger customer profile and built that customer asset list so much faster for so much cheaper, and things just could look different than they do now. And I'm not trying to negate the success that we've had, because we definitely had it. But
you're trying to say, like, if you would have taken a step back and said, this is going to take a lot of my time, but plan for the future. So for someone else who's kind of in the same position as you, who's getting in the mix of their everyday, you can't scale just inside of your store.
No, you cannot.
You're going to be having the same situation where you sell $15,000 on a Saturday and then you have a week of nothing.
Yes.
Right? You have to be able to scale and be able to see big picture stuff.
So
you get your inventory finally caught back up. You start selling online. You're in a situation now where you're back in the same boat again. You're probably having a hard time keeping up with your inventory.
Yes. Well, and COVID was really hard because all of California pretty much shut down.
Oh, is that where most of the stuff comes
That's where all my clothes come from. So I was on the phone calling vendors. Like, I was literally praying for people to be breaking the law of California and be able to ship stuff.
That's what my manufacturer did to me. They snuck in. I needed my tinted primer, my number one selling item. They're like, we were on QA hold when it shut down on the 18th. And she's like, I have your stuff on QA hold. I'm going to have somebody go in there and put it on a truck, ship it to you. Because I'm like, this is like $42 a bottle. This is what everyone needs. But nobody was really wearing makeup, but they still wanted it. But nobody knew it was going to be 4 months of a closure, But yeah, having a lot of inventory on hand helped me survive. But I had millions of dollars worth of inventory, so I don't have a sell-through like you do.
Yes.
So that helped. But yeah, getting key pieces in was impossible for a lot of businesses, and they didn't make it because of that.
COVID happens March 2020, but let's go back about 2 weeks, okay? I found out I was pregnant with our third son, but Jordan had a vasectomy 2.5 years earlier.
Surprise!
Yeah.
Strong
and it was
summers.
successful. Like, we had evidence that he was free and clear. So I find out I'm pregnant with our third kid. COVID hits. And I'm like, okay, so now am I not only dealing with the shock of being pregnant when I thought I wasn't going to
I'm sure him too. He's probably like,
Yeah.
who?
Yeah.
Who's the daddy?
They were like, when he called the urologist, they were like, well,
there's that chance, that 1%.
Well, it was during COVID, so I had to do a video conference with him. First initial contact afterwards, his face was just like, he could hardly even look at me. He was just like, defeated. But if any doctor ever tells you it's never happened to him before, he told me they're lying to you. He said it happens to him. He's been doing it for 20 years, every other year.
Really?
Yeah, I've heard there's still like a
Really?
1% chance or something. I don't know how accurate that is. It's like birth control, it's still that 1%.
Happens.
So we go into COVID, and then the business is really booming during COVID. And at this point, we were in that 3,200 square foot building, but we were outgrowing it. And the landlord was like, this was back in 2017. I was actually pregnant with my second son at this time.
Well, here, hold on. I want to say this really quick. You signed a 4-year lease on the first one, didn't you? How long was your
Actually,
term?
all my leases, because I was in old buildings and small town, they were all a year long.
Okay.
So I had just a year, So I was in the first building for for 4 years. And then I'm in my third building. This is going on year 7. I'm pregnant with our second son. And she's like, hey, you know what? I went out. I want to sell these buildings. I just, we're moving. I don't want to be a part of this anymore. She offers for us to buy the building. We just decided we didn't want to do it. The building had too many things that needed upkeep. It was deemed historical. The idea of it being prime real estate, you couldn't even move the building without getting a permit from the city to like move the historical building. So the location was amazing, but you weren't really going to get the value out of it because of the obstacles you have to overcome to move the building. So we decide, you know what? We're going to shut down our storefront completely, and we're going to move 100% online. So we moved to our warehouse where we're at now.
Did you think it was going to be a permanent move?
We knew that the warehouse would be permanent.
Okay.
And so we're like, but we knew the storefront location, so wasn't. So what we decided is we're like, okay, we'll open this little bitty like storefront location in the front of our warehouses. Here again, I'm trying to, prove what I say is true, is that if you market, anybody will come, right? Well, that is true to a certain extent. But when your like warehouse is literally not even convenient to get to, our sales traffic really slowed down. So we basically said, okay, look, online only. Like we're just going to do online only, and we're going to wait until the perfect retail spot is available in Montgomery because we knew development was coming. We just knew it, and we knew there'd be a great spot for us, a great development that we'd be able to build out exactly how we wanted to. So we moved to the warehouse 2017.
How big is the warehouse?
At this point, it was 2,400 square feet. I have my son. We moved warehouses 2 weeks later. Hurricane Harvey hits a week after that. I'm like thankful.
Hurricanes really messing us up around
Yeah,
here.
I'm so thankful that I have an online store though, because crazy enough, even though Harvey happened, that didn't hit my sales. My online store just kept going, and it was super easy. So I was at home with a 3-week-old in the middle of a hurricane with an online business. And
who was packing orders for you this time? Did you have a team helping you, or were you trying to do that yourself with the baby?
Our online store wasn't big enough that we were just like, hey, we can't fulfill orders right now, but we're going to run this sale. And so we were just generating money, but we weren't fulfilling orders until we were able to get back in and actually do that. So here we are, online only. I'm pregnant with our third child unexpectedly. COVID's happening. The business is booming. Jordan's working in Houston. He's gone 14 hours a day. And I look at him and I'm like, I can't do this by myself. I need your help. And he's like, are we really going to do this? And I was like, I think we are. And so
this is a scary time where you didn't know what's going to happen next.
Yeah. And so then all of a sudden, the landlord for the new retail center is like, oh, by the way, June of 2020, we're about to start building the building and your space will be available December 2020. I'm like, oh, okay. So, wow, I'm about to open a retail brick and mortar location in the middle of a pandemic, and I have no idea how this is going to happen. Plus, I'm pregnant, due in October, with my third child unexpectedly, and I have a growing retail business online. What's happening here? Jordan starts doing the build out and construction for the storefront while he's still working in Houston. And we have Stark, which is our third child, October 7th. And Jordan took 2 weeks off. And while I was driving, 2 weeks, I'll never forget the conversation. He looked at me and he's like, it's time for me to leave my job. I think we're going to do this. And I was like, I think we're going to do this. And so his last day of work was December 13th. We opened our storefront December 9th. We told people, come on in, let's open the doors. And people were so ready to get out of their house at that point that we had lines waiting. People were waiting to come in. And so that's when he left his job. And so that basically changed the trajectory of, I would say, our life as it was, because it felt like everything has changed since that moment in time. We opened our new storefront. We had our third baby. You left your job.
It's like a whole nother life, and then new chapters. A whole new life started.
It's been a whole new chapter.
Yeah, I thought I was going to play a lot of golf.
You're like, oh yeah, I would love to come help you for like from 8 to 1, and then hang out.
Don't let him
and
fool
stuff.
you. He has a lot of flexibility in his schedule.
So what were you doing at the time? Like when you left, were you out there, helping people style their outfits? What were you doing?
So Forged wasn't even a thought.
Oh, were you help styling her ladies though?
No.
You were out there standing up front. You're like, hey ladies, like Abercrombie. Anything you need here? I'll help you.
I basically immediately became the finance guy, the HR guy, the business guy, the administrator.
All the
I did
most
all the-
fun
The maintenance
parts
guy?
of the business.
I was already the maintenance guy for the last 13 years. That also just kept going. So I just helped her run the business, the back end side of things. And
She could focus on the marketing. I'm sure you loved the HR part of it. That's my least favorite.
Well, I was the only male. So it was great, right? With 30 females and one male.
They're probably a lot more well behaved when they go to you to tell you because you're so non-emotional like him.
No, we have our COO that was at the time kind of handling HR stuff. So
she still handles it.
She still handles the front end of all that, and
A lot of his is like an
On the
admin.
back
So
end
your
of it.
COO does your HR.
For the most part, she handles.
Do you
all
hear
the
that,
problems.
Kimberly? She thinks I'm the only person that does
What's
that.
the
She's
staff?
like, this is not my job. COOs do not handle HR, and I'm still head of HR. Damn it! When am I going to get out of this position?
What's the staff split out of the 36 6 people, I
For
think you said.
Forged and
Yeah,
Ruthie?
that
Well-
and then the warehouse and then the retail.
So everything's kind of overlapped besides the storefront at Forge. So Forge has three actual employees for
They're
the storefront.
uniquely like assigned to Forge, and they do
and
nothing
then,
else.
and
but
then
Forge.
everybody, and then we have our storefront at Ruthie Grace that has one full time and several part times. But then all the what we call our warehouse employees, all the rest of our corporate employees, it overlaps both locations.
Yeah, so our corporate ladder, basically, if you were to say, is like there's the visionary CEO, which is me, and then Jordan holds a loose role of CFO, but also my business partner because that's a lot of his job responsibilities.
I have an acronym. It's a basically whatever needs to be done.
CFO element of P.
Yeah. And then we have McKenna, who's my COO, and she's what we call her like the operator of the business. And so she's been with us for 10 years. And then
So she worked her way up within the company then.
Yes.
You didn't pull her from somewhere else.
Nope. She
So
started.
She knows it front and back.
She started steaming clothes. And then we have underneath her, we have what we would consider kind of like our executive team. So we have our head of logistics. Her name's Melissa, and she oversees everything from receiving, inventory purchasing to shipping. So like she really carries like the umbrella of like even customer service, inventory management.
I like to hear this because I like to know, like on my side, because the girls sometimes think I'm putting too much on them. I'm like, I'm not the only one doing this. I feel like you're very similar in size
Yes.
to my company.
Yes.
And it is when it's a smaller company. You have to be a Jacqueline, as we say,
Oh,
of all
of
trades and
trades.
do many different things until you can grow. And as you grow, you can
And you can't
branch
isolate
off.
job responsibilities, right? Because and there's a lot of overlap, right? And then we have a head of marketing. Her name is Rachel, and so she does all of our social media content, marketing, any type of ad spend, things like that. Which I'm also heavily involved in a lot of that. So
Do y'all have your marketing in house as far as like ad spend and on social ads?
so
like,
we
are you
have an
running your own ads?
agency that we
Okay.
work with that runs all of our ads. And so we have an account manager, and he and I do a lot of conversations back and forth about that. Yeah. So we don't do our ads in-house, no. Our ad journey or our ads that are built into Meta, they're pretty complex. And I feel like the way he moves money and budget around, there's just like we couldn't compete with it. Like, what he does in our
Yeah, I
ad
can't do
account
it.
is just like, it's phenomenal, and we don't want to mess with it. So
Like I said earlier, this Legend of Zelda, you have to be,
Yeah.
a computer whiz to be able to look into that, understand it,
Yep.
look at what's hitting, what's not, and what the returns,
Yep.
ROI or whatever he calls
Yep.
it, whatever, there's another acronym for
ROAS.
something else. Yeah, I'm like, I can't, this is too much. Thank God you're doing this and not me.
yeah.
It used to be easy. Back in the day, I feel like it was
Yeah.
something you manage yourself, but now it's just too competitive.
Well, and there's a lot of complexity: campaigns, ads, ad sets, creatives, all the different audiences that you're testing, things like that. And then we have what we call sales. And so sales is essentially a girl named Brittany. She's the head of sales. And so basically, sales is like 3 different selling locations. So we consider Ruthie Grace the storefront as a sales channel, and then we consider Ruthie Grace the warehouse as a sales channel, and that's our e-com team. So we have like lead of e-com who helps like maintain the website, and then we have Forged. And even though Forged has an online store and a storefront, it's technically considered one sales channel because it is one inventory. Okay, so the storefront and the online store pulls from one inventory allocation.
So that's what I was going to ask you. So I've looked at Shopify. They're incredibly expensive. I use Lightspeed.
Okay.
And they make it really hard if you don't use their processor or whatever, and
Yeah.
there's just extra money involved there. So it would make what I spend for my platform
Yep.
with the unknown of not knowing how much they do of the manufacturing side, which I need. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know how much in depth. I don't like that you have to use iPads and you can't use a computer. And that's
With
like a hard-
Shopify?
Yes.
Mhm.
Everything is wrong. And we use like a booking system, and it's hard to toggle between that on an iPad. But I've heard anyone who has Shopify loves it.
Loves it.
Would never leave.
It is the top. It is the best of the best. It
I
has
know, I
more
hear that all the time.
resources, more agencies that support it. I teach retailers, and my partner who I teach with, he builds out e-commerce websites for brick and mortar retailers trying to go online in the online space, and I don't think they suggest any other platform besides Shopify.
What about BigCommerce? Have you heard of that one?
I just think the apps, the integrations, like
Plugins, yeah.
you're going to run into a lot of obstacles there when you're trying to work with different platforms, trying to integrate into your e-commerce platform. I think you're going to have a lot of obstacles where you're not going to always have the option to do so.
That's kind of what we run into with Lightspeed.
Yeah,
And then
you're
knowing
going
that
to.
they only have one option for an app, and then they know that.
Yeah.
So of course they charge me $1,700 a month to have an app or whatever the number is, some crazy number that I wouldn't pay if I had Shopify. So
Right.
I'm trying to take all things into account and considering the switchover because I've heard a lot of good things, but I just don't know how involved the back end is with piece parts.
I think Shopify is very user friendly. I think that we have an account CSM that's dedicated because we're a Shopify Plus, so it's like the highest
I know, I heard about that.
level that you can be on Shopify.
But you pay a max per month. You don't go above that. Like it's not a percentage of your sales. Once you
Right.
get into that, it's a flat
Right.
fee.
Yeah,
kind of
it's
thing.
$2,000 a month. So I mean, I just really like Shopify, and honestly, I was fortunate enough that was like the first platform that I was told to get on. So like I just got it from the get go, you know.
Do you guys have an app with your company?
We do. We don't actually use Shopify for our app. We use a company called Shopgate.
How is that plugging in?
They just integrate together. It's its own sales channel, and so basically, like any sales that take place on the Shopgate app, just filter into our overall sales.
Okay.
And just get fulfilled in our warehouse.
What do
just
they
like
charge per month to have that software? the app?
$1,500 a month.
Okay, so then it wouldn't save me there too.
Yeah. But I don't know that I'm actually a huge believer in apps. We have it. It generates sales. You're either an app user or you're not. You're either staying on Instagram and you're leveraging social media and you're going to external websites, using links, going to that, making purchases, checking out. I think with features like Shop Pay and all those different features that you can have like accounts preloaded and you just tap, 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 tap. I think the user checkout experience is so easy that I just don't.
There's no need for an app anymore.
Yeah. The beauty about having an app though is you can send push notifications for free.
That's what I was going to ask you. Do you have ability to do that with your website?
No, not with the website. You do it with the app. But we leverage SMS, which is like sending text messages to our customers a lot. And the ROI and the open rate and the click rate is just super, super high with text messages.
Over push notifications.
A lot.
Where are you running your social ads? Is it just Instagram and Facebook, or are you doing any TikTok? Is that
So we
a
have
good sales channel?
Okay, so TikTok's an interesting conversation because that's another one, if I was to say regret, as I don't think we capitalized on TikTok quickly enough.
In the beginning when you can explode and
Yeah.
You kept telling
I
me.
will-
post one viral
Do it,
video?
do it, do
I
it.
will say this. The thing that's really beautiful about TikTok is it's based on user interest. So it's a little bit different. The algorithm's different than you see on like Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah.
So like anytime something it really, really does bring in user interest. So anything that's captivating, like you can go viral very easy on TikTok, right? So like just start learning the algorithm, building out content, seeing what people are resonating with, things like that. And TikTok does have the ability to run ads, but the data and tracking of TikTok is very low performing. So from an attribution perspective, TikTok will only attribute a sale if someone makes a purchase inside the TikTok ad.
So not an external sale.
Right. So like I want to make sure that I say it correctly, but basically like the ability of the attribution window to be able to capture someone's data like post-click purchase. Facebook has a wider range. It's 7 days, right? So like if someone's delivered an ad and they see your ad on Instagram and then 5 days later you and Gentry and I are talking and I remind you and you go back to Ruthie Grace and you purchase something but you got the ad 5 days ago, Instagram Meta is going to attribute the sale to the ad that you delivered, even though technically it was a conversation outside of that, or even though maybe I sent you an email and you clicked the email and you bought from the email and the Instagram ad are going to attribute your sale to their campaign, okay? Well, with TikTok, they can only attribute the sale if you make the purchase immediately after viewing the ad and clicking the link. Okay, so you can effectively go build ads on TikTok and you can actually see really great results. You're just not going to have that great of a return because you can't actually collect the data from it. So there's going to be ripple effects that you could effectively say, hey, you know what? Haven't been running ads on TikTok. I'm running ads on TikTok. I'm noticing my sales are going up. It has to be coming from this. But when you go look at the data might necessarily support that. We are really trying to leverage TikTok. I think it's a very different approach to content strategy. I mean, you can always just like film a reel, post it on Facebook, post it on TikTok, see what happens. Like there's no harm in that, right?
If the content's already made and
Like,
it's
just-
the 9 by
just
16,
use
I
it.
push it over, yeah.
Just use it.
What about YouTube Shorts?
We don't do that.
Free. So I just
yeah.
started doing it. It's
Yeah.
free. I
But
feel like
we-
YouTube gets the most traction for our podcast. I think it's definitely the most traction.
Really? And I've heard a lot of really great results from people advertising on YouTube. I do know though, but to answer your question, we only right now are doing ads through Meta, Facebook and Instagram. For a long time, we did Facebook, Instagram, Google, and Pinterest, and we actually had really good results. But we had a lot of overlapping, and we just recently kind of got ourselves in a situation in the last year where I actually dropped my inventory volume way too fast, way too quick. We saw a dip in sales because I actually didn't have the inventory that we needed. We were selling out way too fast.
Why did you do that? What made you realize
That
not to
was
hold as
a-
much? Is it taking too long to get through the stuff?
It was a really stupid decision. At the end of 2021, we were still riding the COVID high and we were really growing, and we were growing outside of our existing warehouses, and we started taking up other warehouses in the warehouse park, and we needed to get everything under one roof. And so as we were coming out of December 2021, out of the holiday season, we were building out our warehouse developer was building some additional buildings. And just right down the walkway, they were building a new section, and it's basically what I would call 3 roofs, right? So there's 3 2,400 square foot spots. And so they basically said, they're like, hey, do you want to take on these additional roofs? And we were like, yes, because we're kind of spread out throughout this warehouse park. And we got boxes here and here and here and here. Yeah, we want to do that. And so we decided that we're going to take on more space because we anticipate more growth. And so I was like, you know what? The end of December, the end of the holiday season, this is a perfect opportunity, and we're moving to a warehouse. Let's just do a major warehouse sale. And let's just get rid of everything, and let's just like almost try and start fresh. And it was a huge
less
success.
stuff to carry. You wanted less stuff to carry over.
It was too successful. And we basically sold through way too much inventory, way too fast for way too cheap. And so the build back process was really challenging. And at that time, I didn't have an inventory reporting system. And so I wasn't actually able to see how undersupplied I was in reference to my sales. And so we went, pretty much an entire year feeling like, oh, hey, why are we having such a hard time getting these sales motivations coming back and like sales growth and things like that? And well, it turns out it was because our inventory was understocked. And I didn't realize, basically, I wasn't capable of seeing how much of a missed opportunity. I had the traffic, I just didn't have the inventory to meet the traffic. We started noticing our conversion rate was dropping. People weren't able to find what they needed to buy. And so basically, when we started looking at ad spend, we were like, okay, so if we're spending all this money on ads, but yet we don't have the inventory, then why are we spending the money on the ads? So I basically cut Pinterest and Google, and I decided to take that cash flow and reinvest it into growing the inventory back. And so we were like, you know what, let's take our risks here. And so we were like, if the ads are truly doing what they're saying, and they can truly hold steady, then Facebook should be able to maintain our sales without Pinterest and Google supplementing it, right? And really that this was just a combination of like trying to hit things all from different corners instead of really like bringing in new prospects from different channels.
Are y'all using any affiliates or influencers or anything?
So because our inventory is so shallow, we have found that working with influencers and affiliates isn't effective for us because by the time we launch the product,
clothing, yeah.
There's no clothing. The products are no longer available. And so, we really run.
Your cycle is that fast. I mean, that is like powerful that you were able to keep it running from like the day that it's made to the day that it's shipped, processed, tagged in your store. It's got 2 weeks left, maybe.
Yeah.
A week. So by the time they film their content, come pick up the product, it's gone.
Yeah. And so it doesn't convert. And, and so we couldn't capitalize on it because, when we're paying influencers $3,000 for one post plus commission.
Yeah, I don't pay a per post thing. We don't do that. We do that once, never again.
It doesn't work.
I have to be able to track it.
Yeah, it has to be able to track it, and it doesn't work. And so we couldn't even capture data because we couldn't sell the products they were selling. So we don't do that. We even tried. We even got a really awesome opportunity to work with Reward Style, or LTK as they're known, to be able to do. They were trying to basically take advantage of in-app purchases. So we were asked to be a part of a beta testing program where people could link the products and they could actually make the purchases inside the LTK app instead of having to go to the business's website. So basically they would take 6% of the transaction, right? But we were supposed to be able to capitalize on it, but trying to set up collaborations, time for deliverables, all those things. I mean, it was just such a struggle for us. And so we don't really do a whole lot of affiliate marketing because we can't make it work with our current business model.
Yeah, I've only had to work with like 2 or 3 people.
So it's been interesting. And, 2021 rolls around and we're doing really well. And then our landlord comes to us and they're like, we have 1 spot left in this retail center. And you had mentioned to me at one point that you thought men's clothing was a perfect market that's untapped to mimic the existing business model that you have with Ruthie Grace, right? So I didn't see it in the men's clothing industry. I was like, this works so well for women's clothing, but yet why hasn't it not done in the men's environment? And so they come to us, they're like, you got this 1 spot. We've got people that want this spot, but if you guys want it, we'll give it to you.
What is retail space going for up there?
We are signed in at $32 a square foot.
Is that,
it's about
was that with the nets or is it plus?
It's plus.
Triple net?
Plus triple net.
Wow. So even up there, it's that high.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay.
That's a growing community.
Yeah.
Sir. that's
And we
the
only
next-
got
it's
$20 a square foot for
no,
build out.
They're the next league city.
Hey,
It's
we're
just-
next, we're
well,
next
no,
to
it's just so
we're next to
expensive everywhere.
Chick-fil-A. Okay, it's a big deal.
It's just expensive.
It's a lot of.
everywhere
So
now.
you were saying right now it's hard because there's reflective glass surface, so people can't see. If they don't know what you guys are, they can't see inside your store.
Yeah.
Something you would have never thought of.
I mean, just something I never thought of. You know, we worked so hard on like building these mannequin boxes, and they're beautiful, but you got to be like right
There's
up
no
against.
show.
Yeah, you got to
There's no
like.
Saks-
You literally
Saks
have to
Avenue
be
show.
looking like this, or you have to wait till it's dark and we can have our lights casted up on our mannequins and no one's in there. But
But I feel like you
mean,
built your name so much that most people in the community, I'm sure, would know who
the
you
community, yes, but
are. Passerbyers wouldn't.
no, and so
Especially for Forged. When we opened Forged, some people would walk in thinking it was a bar,
That
Yeah.
sounds like it could be.
never thinking it was a
Wine
retail
room.
clothing store.
Oh, because you can't even see it, and they just you
Yeah.
open the
Not really.
door.
Yeah.
That would be
Wow.
nice if you guys could be side by side and then have a doorway in
Yeah.
between the two.
Yeah,
I think that would
where
really
it's
help
men's and
increase
women's,
sales.
yeah.
So have you guys thought about at this point? Hopefully your landlord's not listening. But have you thought about potentially like purchasing something like a abandoned or distressed building and building it out, something with enough space to have both in one?
you mean brick and mortar and
Mhm.
warehouse in the same spot?
Mhm.
We've never really fully considered that scenario.
We obviously would like to own our own stuff for sure.
So how does that
One
work
day.
now with your inventory since it's in a different warehouse? Do you have daily deliveries? Like how do you restock your stores? Are your employees
van.
driving in vans back and forth?
We have a Ruthie Grace van.
Yep.
And she's customized and fitted out, and we have racks and they roll them up. I mean, we have an entire system. So,
I mean, I can't tell you how easy it is to walk in the other building that you guys walked into to grab what we need when we're out of something and a customer's asked, we just
We've-
walk over. That was so important to me
We've
having
done
it all in
both
one.
of what y'all are doing. We've had it in house where it's all in the same building, and then we've had
So-
it separate. It's so hard when it's separate like that.
What are you guys paying for just your warehouse per month?
it's like $13,000 a
About 12.
month.
Oh dear Lord!
Are you
How many
still in
square
the?
foot is
Are you
that?
still in the?
For
What do you-
96.
Oh, I mean, that's
9,600 square feet.
Yeah.
still. But if you could find a building though,
I know.
Oh, I know. We could get so much more for what we're paying on our own.
you just gotta find a barn out there that
need
you
to
can
go look-
remodel, put a steel window in the front.
I need to go.
Baby.
I need to go look in Montgomery.
Oh no, Sean's gonna start knocking on doors over there, find you guys something.
We
He's
ha-
obsessive compulsive, and he's really good at finding. When I've said time and time again, he to polish his turds, so he can find a really ugly building that there's probably some homeless people living in, and he will offer
Fix it
some
up.
low ball deal, and they'll say, "God, we just want to get rid of it and get the homeless guys out here. We'll take it," and he'll do it. He'll fix it up, and it will look like this when he's done.
We have, I mean, have you been out? Have y'all been out to Montgomery before?
There's so many wedding venues popping up there. I'm there all
25.
the time. I'm up there all the time doing weddings.
It's
I'm
like it's like
"Can
the
anybody
wedding
get married
venue
in Houston?"
capital of
There's no place to
Texas.
stay. So it's another
I know y'all need
opportunity.
a hotel. See, Sean's just got in the hotel business. You
Yeah.
need that
Hey,
boutique
I
hotel.
We need a
is sold
boutique
out
I have so
hotel.
many
every
ideas. I want
single
to develop
weekend.
Montgomery so bad. There's so many ideas in my head that I want to do.
I haven't really driven
Y'all
through
need
there.
to partner up, show them where the good
Oh,
spots
you
are.
need to come so we can show you around. What's beautiful, we've had some retail studies done. Average household income is very high. We have a lot of single families. It's a very affluent area. I mean, you drive into the high school and there's BMWs and Range Rovers in the parking lot. Like, I mean, there's money out there.
It's not country with the K no more.
No, it's not. You know, with the energy corridor, so many people work in the city,
Yeah.
you know, and so
You get a lot more for your money out there than you do in the woodlands. So people don't mind the commute, even if it's up to
How
Willis.
far north of the Woodlands is it?
20, 25 miles. It's really not bad at all.
It's 30, 35 minutes.
Wow.
It's
so
between
pretty far.
like 290 and 45. It's like that. It's huge. Square footage wise, Montgomery is ginormous.
Yeah.
Or I'm thinking Montgomery County, whatever.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
big.
there's Montgomery County, but then Montgomery is a city within
Yeah.
Montgomery County. And so, you know, we've got 2 6A high schools.
Wow. Yeah. that's big.
So it's really huge.
I think the last study that was done, they said the average median household income was like 125, 150, something like that.
Which is pretty good.
Yeah.
There's a lot of subdivision developments that are coming out there. So you're seeing the land just be bought up like crazy.
And that's within the last like 5 to 6 years. Because when we built our store for our latest storefronts out, that building was being built at the same time that Kroger's was, and that was it.
Mhm.
Chick-fil-A had just come into the picture, so we didn't even know Chick-fil-A was going to be there, or Starbucks, or all the other businesses
What a
that
great
built
place,
up around
yeah.
us. We were the first ones to sign on this location, and then all this other stuff started popping up.
So if you're familiar with the Aggie Expressway, I don't know if you're familiar with that at all. It's basically what they did is they took 249 out of Tomball and they stretched it all the way to Highway 6 right past Plantersville. And so they call it the Aggie Expressway because it basically bypassed. And so you hit on 105 and then immediately you're on Highway 6 going
Okay, so
straight towards
I didn't
College
realize that's
Station.
what it was called. I drive that road all the time.
And so basically, if you look at it, the expressway is coming like northwest, and then you've got 105 that's going west, and they intersect. And so if Montgomery's right here, basically what you're going to see is you're going to see this triangle area of development just explode in the next 10 years because it's going to be bringing people up out of Houston. They've got the expressway. They're going super fast, and you're going to see expansion west of Montgomery. And so there's lots of subdivision developments. D.R. Horton, or was it Caldwell, that just bought all that land right there at 249 and 1486. Yeah, so you can see some master plan communities coming out there. So we have like top level school districts, and so our education in the public schools is like it. There's a huge draw, and in the lake community too, right? So people are looking for that lake lifestyle.
Have you seen in the last year your retail business in the new spot has gotten back up there? Because I know you said a slump when you moved the warehouse with a little small front.
Oh yeah, our brick and mortar storefront does $1.2-1.3 million a year
That's great.
for two
1,800 square feet.
I was
or-
gonna
2,000.
ask,
Yeah,
what
2,000.
percentage of your business is online at this point?
75%.
Oh, that's a huge
Yeah.
chunk, yeah.
It's a big chunk. You know, it produces, and I think it's probably close to being maxed out.
It's a great storefront though.
Yeah, we've got some pretty good volume there. I don't know how much more the growth of the storefront can handle in relation to the square foot.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, the online, like the sky's the limit. So, but I mean, we're really proud of what we've done. We opened Forged in April of 2022.
Yeah, how's the men's going?
Still trying to figure it out.
I'm sure a male consumer is just so much harder. They don't shop online like women do.
No,
No.
our
They
online
want it
sales
in
are
person.
just little to none, really.
Yeah, men want to have the experience. Sean likes to go to that place in the Heights, and I'm really pissing me off. It's the shirt you don't have to iron.
I order stuff off.
What is that place called?
I order a lot of stuff offline.
Not Cuts. Not Cuts. The one that you go to in the Heights that's like checkered and everything looks exactly the
Mizzen
fucking
and
same.
Main.
Mizzen and Main.
Yeah.
Whew. There it is. He will
Yeah.
go in there and he will buy it in every single fucking color times 2.
Yep.
So when one's dirty, he'll have the other one.
Yep.
And I just order a lot of plain stuff offline. Like if there's just
Yeah, Cuts brand is so easy for
or
men to
just
buy
there's
online.
some
They know
other
their
ones too
size.
that I'll order like 5 of something and just
Yep.
But you're not the average male consumer. Most men, especially men that live in Montgomery, I'm sure they want to come have the experience in person versus going online.
One of the biggest hurdles of online though is a lot of our brands that we carry have their own e-commerce.
Do
Yeah.
yours not?
No.
It's so
'Cause-
different. Yours like a
Yeah.
whole new world that you're
Yeah,
learning over
that's
here.
what I'm saying is like we are the retailer. We're the first line retailer. So like those brands can only be bought wholesale, and so we retail them. It's not the same in the men's industry. And
Because
so
they're not interested in marketing these brands. They just want to sell it at wholesale and be done.
Yep, that's what they do. And they've developed their brand, and they're out of LA, and that is what it is, and we go to markets. Men's is very different.
more of a sustainable business that way too. If you have your own, it's not available every single online site that you.
Right. Exactly. So what's challenging for us, what we really need to be able to do to set Forged apart, well, first of all, I would say I teach a lot about knowing your customer, understanding customer identity. We have struggled with Forged, trying to figure out who is the identity of this customer and what is he looking for.
I mean, we named it Forge 86, almost like I was the customer per se, but we're still trying to figure out who the real customer, I guess, is of our business.
We were thinking that we would bring in this man that, has this outdoor lifestyle, whether he's, actually working cattle or he's fishing or he's hunting or he's hiking or whatever he's doing that's outdoor lifestyle, bringing in the lake environment, all these different things, working out, fitness. Like we were trying to bring this guy in, but also be like, okay, but he's also probably like, he's got to have some nice attire in the sense that he needs a pair of slacks. Like he needs a performance slack, right? He needs to have a button down. Like he's going to have some events where he's going to a nice dinner or whatever. We're not necessarily supplying like suits and jackets, but what we have found is like the things that really sell are like graphic tees, shorts with liners that men can wear. Like we do really well with swimwear.
I was just about to ask if you do swimwear.
We don't touch swimwear with Ruthie Grace. With Forge, it's like, if it's a hybrid short, it's going to fly out the door.
Men's swimwear is so much easier. I could never get into women's swimwear.
Yeah.
I thought I wanted to do it for 5 minutes. No.
So, so the models are just so different. The business models, I thought I could copy paste. I thought we're so good at this. Let's try and do it and do something different. Every business owner at one point makes a really decision that they thought was going to be great, and it doesn't pan out the way they did.
Men's is so competitive now because of all the online stuff. And then you can go, I can get 6 of these shirts for $70 or something, and they all look pretty good and they're pretty good material. And so I think that's what you're competing with too.
Well, we also started Ruthie Grace with 900 square feet, $30,000 worth of inventory. Forge, we started out with 1,700 square feet, and you had to fill the store.
Yeah.
And then hope because somebody shows up to buy it,
So you don't even know what to order really.
I think it's also for the guys just not being as fashion conscious.
Yeah, so men
in
don't
the
get
area.
excited. So men don't get excited about clothes like women do.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying about order all the 5 colors for $70 online, and you just
Yeah. So
buy
maybe
one
just go all
pack.
plain t-shirts. Just sell all. just cuts t-shirts, no design, just that.
And the
there you
thing
go.
too,
Just sell out.
what's interesting about Forge is 50% of our customer base is female, right? So women buy clothes for men.
Gotcha.
Dressing
Versus
their
Ruthie
husband.
Grace, there's 1% men, and that's because they're buying gift cards. That's it.
Yeah.
It's just been a huge challenge because the existing Ruthie Grace brick and mortar location is next door to Forged. Its success is built off of that, but figuring out how to scale it, it's been really challenging.
Are you doing the same kind of marketing?
We
that
ran
company
ads for a
online?
while, and the ads did not convert, and so we stopped running them because we figured out that we just don't have our brand voice and our customer nailed down like we thought. So we cut it because we were like, no, we need to do some more testing and some more research and figure out what's really going to resonate with the customer profile. Honestly, unfortunately, Forge gets put on the back burner from a creative perspective for me a lot. Found out men's clothing is not that exciting to me.
Especially what's selling. But I think it's good because I have a ton of followers that are in the area where
Yeah.
you're at. So if they haven't heard of it, maybe their husband's looking for something a
Yeah.
little bit more trendy and fashion forward in the area.
Yes.
Maybe they will hear of it. I didn't know it was from the outside, but wanted to go have wine at that wine bar. Maybe they'll walk in and go shopping.
Hey, we have free beer.
We do.
Come get you a drink.
I mean,
Oh,
our
always like free beer.
storefronts are incredible. And I can say that because we had a designer do it. We were the vision behind it, but we did not
an awesome contractor.
amazing contractors. So when you go in, notice the floating ceilings and the lights behind the cash wrap. But
I risked my life for those.
yeah, they're beautiful. I mean, the design elements are incredible. You walk in and you're just instantly overwhelmed with this experience of the brand. And we have an amazing team. Our customer service experience is top notch. We really do have the best people working for us. We're so blessed in that. But we just got to get more people. It's all about getting eyeballs on the brand. That's the name of the game. The person with the most amount of customers makes the most amount of money, and that's the one that wins. And so that's what we're setting out to do.
Well, it's good that you came to here today because doing podcasts, going out there, meeting new people in different markets, capturing different audiences, that's going to help you guys grow.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate you guys coming out here today in this terrible weather that we had. They hit a hurricane
It's
on the
all
way
right.
in.
It's better than the hurricane.
Yeah,
right.
we'll take it.
But thank you guys for coming in and telling your story. It was very inspiring. And anyone who wants to do what you guys are doing, we hope that they have some takeaways from this, maybe on what POS system to use.
Yeah.
And now that I heard you say that you have a training program, where can they find you in your training program?
Well, I promote it through my personal Instagram, but we basically we launch different courses throughout the year. We're getting prepped for our fall workshop class. It'll be in Conroe at the Hyatt Convention Center, so we're really excited about that. That's in September.
So what is your handle on your personal page so they can find
It's
it?
at Tara Grace Austin.
That's easy.
Yeah.
So they can find you there.
Yep.
They can DM you there. They can
Yep.
find links. And
Yep, I
in
got it all.
store. So everything's in store. It's not one-on-one training. It's not in store.
This particular event is a workshop. It's a 2-day workshop, but we do like a retail academy that we do in the early spring, where it's a 5-day live webinar where we join and we teach people foundational principles, but also how to grow and scale retail businesses.
I think Danny told us about that too.
Yeah.
So that's good because it helps people get around roadblocks, things that you had to learn, took
Yep.
you 5 years to figure out.
Yep.
Like not doing an e-commerce soon enough.
Yes.
You help them get around those hurdles
Do
and
it.
tell them what to do, where to spend
That's
money in
really cool.
marketing and advertising, the type of companies and agencies you use to do so. So I think that's very helpful for anyone who's interested in getting into this business.
Yes.
Well, thank you guys so much. You guys have a great evening and a safe drive home. And
Thank
next time I'm in Montgomery, I'm going to stop by and knock on your door, both, and I'll buy something for Sean.
Okay, I love it.
Really incredible story.
Yeah, thanks for having us.